Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to an unboxing for Zombicide 2nd Edition, The Boys. So if you're not familiar with The Boys, you may be probably heard about the TV series that's been going around, which is what these are more based off of, but it's based off of a comic book series as well. So we are going to get 2 packs for this. There's pack number 1, which is the 7. So these are 7 superheroes in this universe. So in the universe of The Boys, there are various superheroes. They're kind of, and I'm just going to gloss over the plot, try not to have any spoilers. But they are basically funded by the government. Essentially, they work for the government. There are other characters that are superheroes as well, but they get their powers. They're not like naturally born powers. They have like chemicals, I believe. They're given drugs, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Yeah, so we're going to get to 7, which lets us play as the 7 heroes. Because in this world, although sometimes they're considered to be bad or amoral characters, they are the premier superheroes of the world. Then pack number 2 is the Boys, which are generally for the most part, a group of non-superpowered people who are essentially against superheroes because they've been affected badly by them one way or another. Like maybe a superhero killed one of their family members or friends, or accidental, or did something. And so these are the characters we're supposed to be rooting for versus these superheroes. But the 2 boxes will let you actually play as all 7 superheroes and the 6 boys plus their dog companion, and some other extra cards in this set as well as survivors in the game. And these are the 2 packs that came to retail. There is a 3rd pack as well. Pack number 3, which is called Supes Abominations. That's what they call the superheroes, or Supes. This special pack has 1 miniature and 20 cards that let you take all of the 7 and play them as abominations, so you can play against them. Now, the only reason this is kind of a special little box is because this was a pre-order exclusive, so you had to pre-order the first 2 to get this one as well. So this is not available in general retail. You can probably find it secondhand on eBay, or someone selling, like stores, some gaming stores do tend to buy like the full pre-orders. You can buy them. It just ends up upping the price quite a bit because it was exclusive. But yeah, so we'll go over all 3 of these boxes in this video. It'll just be one probably long video with all 3 of them. We're going to read through all the powers and all the abilities and all that fun stuff. So we're going to start with the 7 to begin with. So before we actually get, and we'll just kind of put these guys as the backdrop if they'll stand. So before we actually get in there, look at our game component sheet. We have our 7 miniatures, 7 ID cards, and 7 ultimate skill reference cards. So these are a brand new thing that these characters are bringing into there. So they have a survivor class. So they're having various other 2nd edition characters with classes. Typically, it's been the crossover stuff: Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, so on and so forth. These guys bring their own as well. So what this does is that symbol is just going to identify that they are part of the Supes. Oh, fuzzy there. There we go. So yeah, they have a special ability. So all Supes have 1 extra unique blue level ultimate skill listed on their ID card. The rules for these are unique skills are explained on the back of their ID card. Since many of these skills are special attacks, the Supes also have a reference card for their ultimate skill. These do not occupy inventory slots, and skills are always available. Yeah, so lots of them will have, they all have 2 abilities. One will have their little superhero ability to go with their extra little card, just so you don't have to keep flipping your card back and forth all the time. Supes don't need any equipment to open doors. They can simply perform one action to open a door adjacent. However, other mission prerequisites still apply, such as taking objectives. So if it's a green door, you still have to take a green token, or get the green objective token to open up green doors, but then they can just burst through doors anyhow. They additionally also have collateral effects. Great powers come great responsibilities. However, Supe uses their ultimate skill to attack. It can cause friendly fire, even melee attacks. So typically, if you shoot like use a range attack and you shoot into a crowd, any misses will automatically hit your teammates first. Melee attacks that you get just side, so you can often just not hit your teammate with their sword if you're standing next to them. So Supes must always be careful in unleashing their ultimate skills. A Supe can choose not to perform their ultimate skill, instead perform a regular weapon attack like any other survivor. So yeah, they're not forced to ever have to do it. And it's if they use their skill. So some of them are actually attacks, some are boosts. So this example is saying he's equipping a katana that's almost a walker and another survivor. To avoid triggering friendly fire in case of his melee attack misses, he decides not to use his Death Dealer ultimate skill. So he attacks the katana normally, forfeiting his extra dice. So instead of giving him a separate attack, his ultimate skill gives him a boost. So therefore, he just attacks without using the boost. Besides that, when setting up a mission with Supes, add one additional zombie spawn token to every 2 Supes in the game. Stack these additional spawn tokens in the same zone as the existing ones, or any new spawn zone players choose if they have several available. Yes, this means some zones will double or triple the spawn rate. So 1 to 2 Supes have 1 spawn, 3 to 4 have 2 spawns, 5 to 6 have 3 spawn. So this is, again, because these guys are supposed to be a little bit more powerful than regular survivors. They're not your office workers or your medical person, your jogger or trainer or whatever the other normal people are. They're superheroes. So they get extra free attacks right off the bat. They do extra damage. All this really fun stuff. So we'll go ahead and jump into them. Gonna throw up my box here. So we're gonna start with Homelander. So now obviously these are all well, let's get that out of the way, I guess. They're all kind of references to more or less the Justice League DC characters. They're kind of like homages to them. So Homelander's obviously your Superman type. So one thing we'll notice right off the bat, he has 4 health. So that's one big thing they have. His 2 abilities starts with our Home Defender and Heat Vision. I'm actually going to come back to those in just a moment. I'm going to go through the rest of his abilities first. So he has, in orange, 1 free combat action, and then Blitz. And because I don't always remember what all these do off the top of my head, I'm going to hop to the guidebook and see exactly what Blitz does. So, Survivor can use the skill once during each of their turns. Survivor spends 1 action. They move up to 2 zones to a zone where zombies are within range of one of their equipped ranged weapons. They may then gain 1 free ranged action. Yeah, so that's kind of nice. So basically, he gets the ability to move, just spend 1 action, he can move 2 zones, and then perform a free attack. So that's kind of nice. So it kind of combines his attack and that, but he can only move if he's going to be within range. So if he's not within range, he does a normal move attack, or normal movement, but he can do both. In red, he has +1 damage for ranged attacks, +1 zone per move, or super strength. Super strength is, of course, definitely going to be good for someone like him. Consider damage value of melee weapons used by a survivor to be 3. So, uses a melee weapon, he can do super extra. So, his first 2 attacks, here's the blue, which is Home Defenders. I'm actually going to flip over, because I don't think this is a normal one. I think this is actually a brand new ability. So you are not limited to range 0-1 when tracing lines of sight through building zones. So this means when he's in a building, he can basically attack anywhere in a building. He's not limited to only his 1 to 2 zones, so he can shoot straight through a building. And then they go up the back of the card they have up at the top here. They remind you how ultimate extra skills at blue levels may perform door action without opening doors, and extra spawn for every 2 Supes. Then it does show his Heat Vision ability on the back, which says ignores dark zones, friendly fire hits eliminate the survivor. So he can shoot at range 0 to 2, rolls 5 dice, so watch there, he has 4 accuracy, does 2 damage, and does not cause noise. So they will get an extra little card like this that has the exact same stats on there. And it's on the back, it just says Homelander. This is so you can keep this out at the same time. You can put it on your character or stick it off to the side or whatever. Just so you always have that reference. You don't have to keep flipping over to remember what his ability was. But it's kind of cool, because that means right off the bat, no matter what, he always has a range 0 to 2 ability, without having to look for equipment, which then makes his blitz and his +1 range damage abilities even better. Now, are there weapons that are necessarily going to be better than this? Sure, probably, but this is a free one he always has access to. Alright, so there he is, and there's his miniature there. I was hoping maybe if I just left it on there, that would be good, but yeah, definitely some. The orange, which is the new color for 2nd edition. So there is Homelander. Alright, let's head to our second one. We have Queen Maeve, who is our Wonder Woman analogy. Or analog, I guess, not analogy. So she has Charge and Proud Fury. So Charge is her just regular basic blue attack, which says, of course, survivor can use a skill once during each of their turns for free. They move up to 2 zones to a zone containing at least 1 zombie. Normal zombie rules still apply. Entering a zone contains 1 zombie. Entering a zone containing zombies still ends the attack. So she has the ability just to automatically move an extra 2 spaces for free every turn. So Blitz did let Homelander move and attack. He had to spend an action to do that. She can just move in quicker. So that'll let her use her Proud Fury ability a little bit quicker. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to put her little card up there. So Proud Fury is a melee, which has 0 range, of course. 4 dice, 3 accuracy, does 2 hits, and makes no noise. So, comparing that to Homelander's, it doesn't roll as many dice, but it has a little bit better accuracy for the same amount of damage. But again, you have to be right next to someone. But there's where they become more powerful, is because she can charge up to 2 spaces and get close to guys quickly and do a free, pretty powerful attack right off the bat. So we're going to go ahead and just drop that back down. So her next orange ability is Lifesaver, which lets her pull a survivor from an adjacent zone that contains zombies into her zone for, I believe it is for an action. Let me just double check. Nope, for free. Yep, there's 1 survivor within 1 range of her and has a clear line of sight. Can be dragged in a survivor zone without penalty. Survivor may decline the rest and stay in selected zone if their player chooses. You can't force someone into an area they don't want to be in. Then she has Reaper Melee. Reaper is going to let her. Can be used when assigning hits while resolving action of a specific type, combat, melee, or range. One of these hits freely eliminates an identical zombie of the same zone. Only a single zombie can eliminate per action. So when she does a melee attack, if she defeats a walker, she gets a free walker. She defeats a runner, she gets a free runner. Being that she has Charge and her Proud Fury, she's going to be able to get in close, do some good stuff. In red, she has 1 free combat action. Brother in Arms, +1 die for combat, and super strength. Brother in Arms means as long as she's in the same zone as another survivor, all the survivors in that zone now have +1 die for combat, so you're rolling additional 1. So it's definitely a fun ability. I always like the Brothers in Arms, but it's kind of that double-edged sword, because you have to be next to other people to gain. So she's running up doing melee attacks with other people, or even she's hanging back with somebody for whatever reason doing range. They're all going to get more powerful, but if she gets off on her own, she kind of loses that. So there's her. Trying to get this to focus. Yeah, it wants to keep. Let me see if I pull the card down. And it wants to keep focusing on the card. There we go. So she's got that Amazon-ish armor and everything. Now, one thing to remember with these characters is they're in the shows they're all kind of manufactured. So it's they're created by the personas are created by the government, at least. Although sometimes their attitudes and stuff aren't. Yeah, so that makes them, so it's like she's not actually like an Amazon type thing. Or, he's not an alien, but they kind of have like that vibe. So now we have A-Train, who's of course our Flash of the group. He's the fastest effing man alive. So he has Slippery, which I just like to read the exact ones for these. Survivors do not spend extra actions when they perform move actions out of a zone containing zombies. Survivor also ignores zombies when performing move actions. So yeah, basically he can just get around. He's so quick, he doesn't have to worry about zombies. He can just run around and through them. And then his skill is the fastest effing man alive, which says, once during each of your turns, you may spend one action to move exactly 3 zones. No U-turns. So you have to go straight or straight, like left, straight, right, or right and then straight. You just can't do like a U-turn. 2 other actors in each zone you enter each suffer 2 damage. Assign any hits to survivors first. So what that means is that he runs through 3 zones. Any 2 other actors, an actor being defined in this game as being either a survivor or a zombie. Basically, any other miniature on the board suffers 2 damage. So it's pretty powerful, because like the other 2 guys each had the ability to 2 damage as well. Queen Maeve and Homelander, but you had to roll dice and do stuff. He's just going to run straight through them. But the thing there is, he can do more damage to more guys that way, because he could do up to 4 damage, potentially. But you also have to watch out for your teammates a lot more, because those other 2 attacks, you have to target a specific zone. This one, you have to be like, well, I really need to take out, that one guy, but, like, for me to do that, I'm going to end up hitting one of my teammates. Or he can end up running into a horde of walkers. Oh, great, he took out 2 walkers, but now he has 3 more walkers in that area. So now he's stuck in that area. So it's kind of a neat ability. It's definitely different, right? So I'll at least give it that. Alright, then he has an Orange Charge, which we've just already seen, and he has Tactician. Survivor's turn can be resolved at any time during player phase, before or after any survivor's turn. If some survivors benefit, players choose their turn order. So, typically while playing, you play player 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. And then I believe you can pass around the first player marker, then it's player 2, 3, 4, 1. But basically that's him, is he can go whenever he wants. He's fast, he can just move in and play whenever he wants. In red, 1 combat action, +1 free move action, or Zombie Link. Zombie Link says survivor plays an extra turn each time an extra activation card, not rushes, is drawn from the zombie pile. They play before the extra activated zombies. So again, it's just kind of work with his idea of being super quick, is that he can just run through and get extra turns. So I didn't flip over to the back side, but they again just have a couple of these abilities listed. Always going to be their ultimate skill. But then they'll also have usually one of the other skills, plus a reminder of the Supes ability. Alright, so let's take a look at him. He does have that cool speed trail there. I just can't get these guys to focus for some reason. Zoom in. There we go. So not really like a huge spoiler, but he is, he's one of the reasons why one of the boys, are after the superheroes. I'm not going to go into who and what and all that. You can definitely just, check out the comic book. Definitely great. I read the first couple of books. I have not seen the TV series, so I know what these characters' designs and looks are based off the TV series versus the comic book ones, but it's still definitely cool. Alright, so here you have the Deep, which is of course our Aquaman character, who has Sidestep. Whenever zombies spawn within range of 0 to 1 and before any rushes, the survivor may immediately perform a free move action. The survivor does not spend extra action to perform it. May only use once per zombie card drawn, so it just lets him get out of the way of zombies quicker. Then his ultimate ability is Lord of the Seven Seas. So we'll take a look at that. He has a melee 2 dice, 4, 3, causes noise. So kind of interesting because it's not as it's definitely not as powerful as some of the other 2, Queen Maven and Homelanders, but it's sort of like the hierarchy of the show. Is he's not as powerful of a character necessarily, but it says must spend 2 actions to perform this attack. So that's kind of the whole thing, right? They're kind of, other than making these characters powerful, they're also making it like realistic to the show, right? But yeah, he also does 3 damage though, so he can potentially do more, but he will cause noise. But you have to spend 2 actions, so it's a risky thing to do, but if you hit with it, awesome. All right, so his actions are, we already went through blue. His oranges, Scavenger and Slippery. We saw Slippery before. Scavenger. Survivor may search any buildings or street zones. Normal rules still apply. So he can kind of get around a little bit easier. And he can search for items. So he'll kind of be like the backup character. In red, we have +1 die for combat, 1 free combat action, or Brothers in Arms, 1 die for combat. So it's actually an interesting a red situation because he's with everybody else. Brothers in Arms is better because everyone gets the +1 die combat, but if he's by himself, he can make sure he always has it. Because if he's not with everybody else, Brothers in Arms doesn't kick off. So that's kind of a neat effect there. So there he is on a bunch of water. Let's see if we can move this out of the way and get him to focus. He focused a lot quicker. But yeah, he's on a pool of water. I'm glad they didn't give him a trident or anything. I think that would have been a little bit too on the nose. Alright, then our next character is Black Noir. So I don't know if he directly really has a DC thing. I guess you could say he's the Batman because he's all dressed in black. But he's not. He's supposed to be a silent ninja. That's the whole point of him. There's not really a ninja on the team per se. I guess, again, Batman sort of fits the theme. But yeah, he's not a direct thing. But he has Tactician, which we've seen lets him play out of order, and Death Dealer. So Death Dealer says, +2 dice to any combat actions. Melee attack with this bonus can cause friendly fire. So basically all his attacks get stronger. He can basically have better, more efficient attacks. You gotta remember that you can potentially hurt a lot more people with those. So that could almost make some of his stuff better, but unlike the other 4 characters, it means he doesn't initially have a straight up attack. He has to use whatever weapons he has available. All the rest have their own built-in attack. Alright, in orange he has Reaper Melee, and he has Webbing. Webbing says all equipment in Survivor's inventory is considered equipped in hand. So this definitely makes him a lot better. So he can carry around 2 knives, or 2 swords, or melee weapons that have dual wield in his hands, but then you can carry a gun in the backpack, but you can use it at any time. So he's versatile, to be able to use all the weapons. He has Ambidextrous, which is going to let him treat any weapons, as long as they're the same name, as dual wielding. So again, that works really well with the webbing as well. And then finally, he has Regeneration, which says, during each end phase, the survivor's health is slowly restored to maximum. So while the other characters have some really good built-in attacks and stats, and moving around and things like that, this guy's just going to be your weapon master. He's going to do extra damage, and if he gets hit, boom, he'll heal right back up. Pretty straightforward. Definitely a neat character. Alright, so we'll take a look at his miniature. He's got 2 little hand knives. He's got knives in his pockets. And knives. So he's like meant to be like a melee character. But they did make him so you can use him as ranged as well. They could have changed his death dealer to only do melee actions, I guess. But that's kind of cool that they didn't. Alright, up next, now we actually have a character that's not a DC analogy. It would be Soldier Boy, who's supposed to be more of Captain America, obviously. So the 2 things are interesting about this character for this game is, first of all, is that although he's supposed to be Captain America, he's supposed to be part of like one of the original teams before the current iteration of the 7. So I think that was sort of the idea. If I'm thinking properly, and I could be wrong, was it like the original team was kind of ends up like, which is I think created afterwards, current chronologically, but they were supposed to be the team that came before. We're all like more probably based off like the Avengers, and then now the new ones are based off DC. I think that's sort of just to be like the joke of it. The other thing that's kind of interesting is because, and again, haven't seen the show, but I'm almost positive he's played by Jen Ackles, if I said his name right, who's from Supernatural, and they just also released, almost right alongside of this, they released the Supernatural Zombicide. So it's kind of interesting. That means you can potentially have 2 of his miniatures out at the same time playing together. So that's kind of cool. Alright, so he has Tough. Says survivor ignores the first wound they receive during each attack step. And during friendly fire. So that's kind of nice, because that means he could be up front. He wouldn't have to worry as much about the other soup shooting at him. He has the ultimate ability called Chest Blast. This skill can be used once during each of your turns for free. 4 other actors in your zone suffer 1 damage. Assign any survivor first. Then move all zombies there to adjacent zones. So, sort of like A-Train, where he can do just straight up damage. He can potentially do 4. He can only do it to 1 zone, but he can get into an area with a bunch of zombies or whoever and just shoot out and do a bunch of damage. He just has to worry about hitting his friends if they're around. But he also can move them all to an adjacent zone. And I'm assuming, let's say he's in 1 square, you could move them to any of the 4 cardinal directions, up, down, left, right. You don't have to push them all one direction. You could also space them out too, because maybe they'll make them easier to deal with. So that's definitely a neat ability. Alright, then he has 1 free melee action and Hit and Run. Hit and Run is if you defeat a zombie, hitting them, you may now perform a free melee or free move action. So this can definitely be useful for if you finished off the last zombie in a zone, you can now move to another zone, start taking out the next one or getting ready, or you could use it in the other way, is you could take out a guy and then now there's still 4 guys left, now you could run and get away for free. Yeah, so Hit and Run works either way. With this Chest Blast, Hit and Run can actually work fairly well with that too, because if you separate them guys all out of the way, it says survivor can use a skill for free just after resolve a melee range attack when at least 1 zombie has been eliminated. May make a free move action. So yeah, you could Chest Blast. I guess you could use Chest Blast. It's not considered a melee action or ranged action, so it wouldn't work for Hit and Run, but you could separate the zombies out so that now you could go ahead and move to 1 area, take out 1, maybe move to a different area. It could definitely help you space the guys out and be able to deal with them a little bit easier instead of having them all ganged up in 1 spot. In his red, he has 1 free combat action, super strength, and webbing. So some of the other abilities we've already seen. Alright. And there he is with his old school triangular-ish shield, standing up on the rocks, saluting. Cool. Alright, so we got one more character left of the 7, and we have Starlight. So Starlight is the interesting one. She's like the newest member of the 7 per the show. She's kind of like one of the main characters the story revolves around. As you will also maybe have seen or she's also part of the Boys. So we'll have another version of her in there. So it's kind of interesting. So we get 2 versions with different abilities. So we'll kind of look at those. So she has Lifesaver, pull people away, and Star Blast. So Star Blast is a range 0 to 1. Roll 3 dice, 3 accuracy, 2 hits, makes noise. Ignore dark zones. All the survivors in your zone are laid down. Survivors must spend their first available action to get up. So this basically blinds everybody. All the survivors in here. Zombies obviously don't get blinded, but just can blind other survivors in your area. You have to spend an action getting up. So it's not as bad, I guess, to use it with all your other characters if they just have to spend an extra action. But again, it's supposed to, I think, kind of be thematic. Just because she's shooting off a giant strobe of light. Alright, so she has combat reflexes, which say whenever a zombie spawns within 1 to 0 range, survivor may immediately perform a free combat action against them. This actor may eliminate more zombies than have spawned. Range actions must still be aimed at the zone where the zombie is spawned. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So if a zombie spawns within range, she can use her blast ahead of time, or just use any other action she has. She also has Shove, which lets her push any zombie into an adjacent space. Let me just see exactly how this is. Use a skill once per each of their turn for free. Select the zone at 1 range. Both zones need to share a clear path. All zombies standing in survivor zones are pushed to the selected zone. So she has attack from away. If they spawn near her, she can push guys away. She can blind people. She has in red +1 die for range, 1 free combat action, and zombie link. So kind of like quick reactions. So very interesting for her character. Alright, so that is her miniature there. And this is her original costume. I think it's her original costume. It's her more skimpy one they gave her. She doesn't really like it. So she joins the superheroes thinking, oh, superheroes are awesome. Like, that's her whole thing. Then she kind of finds out that maybe they're not as everything they lived up to be. Alright, so we're going to head in and look at the Boys. I'm going to set that up quick. Alright, so we're going to hop into pack number 2, the Boys, which will have our different miniatures. We have some ultimate cards, because we have some more with companion, and 1 equipment card. So since we just went over most of this, I'm not going to have to re-go over it, but we do have some characters that have the Supes ability, which would get their special things, their reference card, collateral effects, all of that stuff. And we have the Laser Baby, which we will look at. It's just an extra thing. And then we finally have Pear, Butch's dog companion. So we will look at that one, that more in effect when we actually get there. So I want to just hop right into these. So instead of starting with the actual Boys, we're going to start with Annie Starlight. Since we just looked at her, the 7's card, let's look at her Boys card so we can see the difference in her abilities. So she gets to start this one with Steady Hand. It says, survivor can ignore other survivors of their choosing when missing with a ranged action. This skill does not apply to games effects, killing everything in a targeted zone, such as the Molotov. So she can ignore other survivors. Now, what I am not for sure, because it doesn't say in here, is whether that will ignore her superhero ability. Her ultimate ability, because that does say then it'll hit survivors even with melee. So I would assume that as long as she's doing a range attack, she can now definitely just ignore people. Then she has Light Pulse as her special ability. So this one does 0 to 1, 2, 3, does 1 damage, no range, and ignores dark. So it's kind of the idea of like she's maybe gotten a little bit better or a little bit more in control of her ability. So instead of doing a bright star, now she's only doing a light. So, like, just as a quick comparison there. So, she gets less dice, it's less powerful, same amount of accuracy, and it does less damage. But she doesn't hurt everybody else in the process. So, she's not maybe as intense of a thing where she's blinding everybody or hurting everybody. But it's definitely a neat way to do that. Kind of show like the changing of the character. Alright, then she still has Lifesaver, she had before, but now she also gains Low Profile. Which Low Profile says... survivor can't get hit by friendly fire. Ignore them when shooting in the zone they're standing in. So now she has the ability herself to ignore ranged attacks. Damaging people. She can't get hit by them. So she's kind of like becoming light almost. She has one guy for range, one free combat, and shove. So she keeps a lot of the same stuff she had in the other one. Couple of little differences. Make her just unique enough. But that's really neat that we have both versions. Alright, so we're going to flip that down. Let's take a look at her miniature. So there's her more like reserved costume. She has like a cape on. She has like a full mini skirt and dress on versus a little like one-piece unitard. Definitely neat idea. Alright, then we're going to hop into the actual boys. We're going to start with the big bad guy himself, Billy Butcher, who is the leader of the boys. So he starts with Terror. So we'll just go ahead and toss Terror up there as well right away. He's his bulldog. So that's his starting card. So now you'll notice, now he's no longer a soup. We don't have the soups, they're back down to 3 because these are just regular guys. So he's going to get Terror to start with. Terror is his companion, the English bulldog, who has an attack of 0 range, so it's a melee, 2 dice, 3 accuracy, 1 damage, and makes noise. He also has some special abilities. He can move 2 zones per move, has Slippery, so he doesn't even get around zombies, has Scavenger, he can find stuff for you in any zone, Low Profile, can't get hit by ranged attacks. So it actually gives him some really good stuff to do. His special, and every end phase can eliminate 1 walker at a range of 0 of 1 of Terror. His leader gains 1 AP. So that's kind of cool as well. So he gets some extra abilities. So we're just going to look at the sheet here quick. So he is considered a survivor for any of that stuff. Also counts as a noise. Is eliminated upon receiving any wounds unless otherwise stated in the mission. The game is lost if he's eliminated. So there's the downside. If you're playing with that one survivor is gone, he counts as that. Can move freely with his leader as long as they're both in the same zone. So that means if Billy moves, he can move for free with him. Does not have any inventory. He has the unique Always Alert still. During every end phase, eliminate 1 walker at range of 0 to 1 from Terror. Terror's leader gets the AP. Now, they mention leader because if you are using this in maybe different game, you throw us in a separate game, it's not always going to be Billy that has him. Somebody else has him. Or you could trade him off with somebody else. Terror does not have any actions. The leader can spend their own actions to give instructions to Terror at the cost of 1 action by his leader. Terror can perform one of the following moves. Move up to 2 zones, melee attack, seeing his card, make some noise, get in or out of a car, doesn't take up a seat, and obviously he can't drive it, and search. Terror can hold a single equipment card if found this way, but not use it. Put the equipment card under the dog companion card. Terror can freely give the equipment he holds to his leader anytime they're in the same zone. He also freely drop the equipment at any time. So this definitely makes him the companion kind of a neat, fun character to have. Because he can, you have to spend your action points to do stuff, but it could give you very different alternatives on what to do. Having someone else look for stuff or do this. Plus, if you can only search 1 per phase, you have a second guy that can search. Or he can send him out to drop equipment off with somebody else. While he stays around, maybe he defends against other zombies. Or again, at end phase, have him get in a spot, maybe help just eliminate that 1 extra guy he needs. So definitely a neat extra card to have. Alright, let's get back to Billy. Let's see what he has. So, his brothers in arms, +1 die roll for range, and is that all you've got? So as long as he's with anyone else, he has +1 die roll for range. Now, this survivor can use a skill whenever standing in the same zone as at least one other survivor. Remember, terror counts as a survivor, so that gives each of them +1 range. Although terror really won't use it too much. But that's definitely an interesting thing to think about that, right? And then he has Is That All You've Got, which says this skill can be used anytime each survivor is about to endure wounds. Negate 1 wound for each equipment discarded from the survivor's inventory. So you can get rid of inventory or items to help keep them alive. In Reg, we have 1 free melee action, Born Leader, and Reaper range. We've seen Reaper melee. This just lets him do range so he can get rid of stuff ahead of time. And then Boring Leader says, during the survivor's turn, the survivor may give 1 free action to another survivor to use if they please. This action is used immediately, then Boring Survivor resumes their turn. So this is kind of a neat one, especially if he's using Terror, because he can just give Terror a free action every turn and not have to spend his own, but you can also give it to your other teammates to help out, clear the way, do stuff like that. So definitely cool. So yeah, if we flip on the back, they'll just kind of re-mention what some of those are. Oh, so here it does say this, though. At least one other survivor, companions are not included. Aha. See, good thing we flipped it over and we read that. Because they're considered to be survivors for all other gameplay modes. I would have assumed they would have worked. So that's a good thing to note, that his terror does not activate his brother-in-arms. Interesting. Because I would have assumed otherwise just by reading the rules. Good thing we checked on that. I don't think they mentioned it in the original rulebook because there wasn't companions available in the base game. But there's Billy for us. Let me get that to focus a little bit better. He's got a giant crowbar. Just, very standard looking things. And then if we look at Terror there. Now, if you had the original Zombicides classic, you could have other dog companions as well. So that's definitely cool. You could make like a bunch of dog companions in your decks now. Alright. Let's jump to our next, the boys. We have Mother's Milk. So these are all kind of like code names, obviously. So I like the fact that Billy has a crowbar and he has a bunch of range attacks. Mother's Milk, walking out of the giant sledgehammer, has sniper right off the bat. It's just funny, like they gave them their pictures, they have them with melee weapons, and they're using ranged attacks. So sniper is very, very obvious, as a freely choose targets for all the ranged actions, friendly fire is ignored. So yeah, you can just sit there and shoot in the crowd, so that definitely helps out. Brothers in Arms, +1 die for range, and Field Medic. So these characters are going to work really well as a team. That's the whole idea of them. The Supes, from the 7, are all kind of powerhouses on their own. They can kind of go off on their own. They benefit from teamwork, but they're not necessary. The boys are going to do a lot better if they kind of stick together. Field Medic survivor can use this skill once during each of their turns. The survivor spends 1 action. They move up to 2 zones to a zone containing at least 1 survivor. They may heal up to 1 wound from any survivor, including themselves. Normal movement rules still apply. Field Medic may be used. All survivors have no wounds. So basically, if nothing else, you can spend an action to move up to 2 zones, but then you also have the option of healing anybody. So that's definitely a fun extra effect. And then in Reg, 1 damage for ranged attacks, +1 free ranged attack, or Gunslinger. Gunslinger says survivor treats all ranged weapons as if they had the dual symbol. So you can basically dual wield any guns. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, so that's pretty neat for him. I don't have a lot more to go with that one. He's going to work really well as a ranged distance. He's going to work well with Billy Butcher, because he has, extra stuff if he does Brother in Arms with range. You combine those two together, they're going to get a lot of good range out of that. Which kind of makes sense. If you're fighting a superhero, you're probably not gonna, unless you have super strength or super durability, you're probably not going to want to get next to them. You probably want to shoot them at a distance. Alright, so there is his miniature. What's also fun about these characters is because they're not like so over the top that they don't feel like they wouldn't fit in ability-wise, and also just the fact of their looks, right? You see this as just being another Zombicide character. So that's definitely neat. Alright. Our third boys, is we have Frenchie. We're going to start with search for 2 cards. So when you do a search action, you look at 2 cards instead. I believe, though, you will only get 1 of them. Nope, you draw 2 cards when you're searching. So, yeah, that's definitely not a bad thing to have. Then he has in orange, his 2 cocktails are better than 1, and Brothers in Arm, 1 free ranged action. So that's our third Brothers in Arms ability for these guys. 2 cocktails is better than 1. I think it means roll a die each time a survivor discards a Molotov to perform a ranged action. On a result of 4 or more, Molotov equipment card may be put in the survivor's backpack for free. The die may not be altered or rerolled in any way. So it just lets him, if you get the Molotovs, he can throw them, and he can potentially keep reusing them, which is really nice. In red, +1 die for range, +1 die roll for range, or webbing. Yeah, so far we just looked at those 3 characters all together. We have Brothers in Arms, 1 free ranged action, +1 die roll for range, and 1 die for range. So you're going to get a free action for range, which then, so all 3 of these guys are in the same area. They each have 1 extra range action, which has 1 extra die, and +1 to that die roll. So your attacks are going to hit easier because you're getting the extra +1 to your die. You're going to get 1 extra die, so you're going to potentially do more damage. And then you also get to do it for free. So yeah, if you have all 3 of these guys together, they can just be kind of launching bullets and Molotovs and whatever else you need. Definitely a good thing, cool thing to have. Alright, so those are the 3 main boys, and we kind of got, the last 2 characters are kind of like, well, one of them's a newer addition. Got some fuzzies on me. So there's Frenchie. Got some, like, bombs on him. I hope he's a little, like, kind of, like, chubbier. Like, not fat, just, I mean, maybe it's a sweater or whatever, but it's just kind of, like, he's not just fit, thin survivor. Alright, so then we have Kamiko, who's also in the comics, just known as, I want to say in the comics she was the lady. And then in the TV series, they actually gave her a name. This is supposed to be like the boys disbanded for a long time, and then the last character we haven't went over yet, Huey, thing happened to him, and then Billy Butcher kind of came back, brought them back together, and then she rejoined everyone a little bit later. So she's also a Supes. We do get 2 Supes in this set as well. She has low profile and Kamiko's range. So low profile, again, she can't be the target of friendly fire. Kamiko's range, 0 melee, 2 dice, 3 accuracy, 2 damage, and makes no sound. 10 cost friendly fire. Once per turn, if you kill any zombies with the skill, you may immediately move up to 2 zones, ignoring zombies, to a zone containing any zombies and perform a free melee attack. So that's pretty cool. Basically, it gives you hit and run with a free melee attack. You kill 1 guy, you can move 2, like hit and run. But you also get another free melee attack. So you might potentially take out 2 extra guys in 1 hit. Which could, again, maybe time it right, or work it right. You could end up getting, like, being a group of guys, take out 1 guy, then move to a zone with fewer guys so you don't have to worry about taking all of them out. Alright, in her orange, she has 1 free melee action, and charge, so you can get in closer. In red, Reaper, Melee, Regeneration, and Super Strength. It's all stuff we've seen before. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The other 3 characters are all, for the most part, they're all pretty much like range characters. And then you get her. She can just rush in. But because she has a low profile to start with, and she can't be shot at or hit, she can be in there and the other guys can all be shooting at her. And even Starlight gained the same thing. She gained low profile. You could give her a low profile in orange. So that if you're playing all these characters together, the other 3 guys can stand back all together, get brothers in arms, work together, do some damage. And then your 2 superheroes can get up closer and you don't have to worry about getting hurt. This is one of them ones. It's neat. She's not, because we're hoodie and stuff, but like she has like different pictures and like patterns on her shirt and everything. So it makes her look cool here. It just kind of looks like this lady's running around in like jogger clothes. But it's definitely interesting. Like non-painted, it's not going to look as neat. Alright, then our last survivor is Huey. So he's like the catalyst, one of the main-ish characters of the start, and they're all kind of main characters. So he's going to start with Lucky, which Lucky will let you reroll dice. Specifically, for each action the survivor takes, the player may choose to reroll all the dice an additional time. The new results replace the old ones. This still stacks with the effects of equipment that allows rerolls. So basically, you don't like your roll, re-roll it. In his orange, his brothers in arms, +1 die for melee, and hold your nose. So he can get the brother in arms action too and do all the extra stuff, but then he can also give everyone melee. So if everyone gets close, he can help out that way. Hold your nose lets him, I believe, pull stuff from zombies. Survivor draws an equipment card from the core equipment deck only whenever the last zombie standing in their zone is eliminated by a survivor themselves or another survivor or any other game effect. This skill works in any zone, even a street zone, and can be used multiple times the same turn. This is not considered a search action. So that's kind of neat. So anytime, whenever someone's eliminated in their zone, he can go ahead and gain extra equipment that way. Can search more than once, pretty much says exactly what that means. Can search multiple times, so he's going to just be trying to find items for everybody. Slippery and Sprint. Sprint, I think, is the only one we haven't went over yet, which says survivor can use this skill once during the turn. Spend 1 move action, may move 2 to 3 zones instead of 1. Ends if they enter a zone with a zombie. So yeah, fairly simple there. He's going to get to move around, find you items. If he's with other guys, they get extra melee, so that way they can go ahead and take those stuff. So maybe like have him running around with Kamiko. They could probably do some good damage and find stuff. Or, have Terror run around with him, because he still gets that hold your nose ability if Terror finishes off the last one, which he does for free, right? So there's his. Just this guy's got weird thing. It's like he just looks like a guy just standing there holding a thing. If you don't know what that is, I'm guessing that's probably a detonator of some sort. It would have been weird to have like a bomb at his feet or something, but still, this looks kind of odd. Anywho, all right. So then the last card we have in this set is we have a better item, I guess. We have the Laser Baby. Which is an equipment you can have. Friendly fire eliminates the affected survivor. So it has range of 0 to 1, 4, 4, and 2. It's basically a weapon that essentially gives anybody a soup ability. So they have like the ultimate ability of 1 to 0 range. Does some decent damage, but it can do friendly fire. I don't think the book says anything else special like that. Just regular epic weapon. Just shuffle it in there, now everyone has access to that. Alright, so that is what we had for box 1 and 2. So these, again, were the 2 that went to retail. You can pick up. So then the next pack we're going to go over is pack 3, which is the Supes as Abominations. So basically here it says, to play as a Supes Abomination, simply add the corresponding Abomination cards to the deck during setup. Survivor Miniatures, so the ones from the 7, are used for this. So it means that both the same character can't be a Survivor as an Abomination. So if you want to fight Homelander, or the Deep, or A-Train, or if you want to have the Boys versus the 7, you can definitely do that. Supes aren't usually defeated as regular Abominations. Each of them lists the survivors must do in order to eliminate that. It usually involves some combination of using brute force, Molotov cocktails, Compound V, and the judicious application of milk and nuts. Each Supe Abominations card lists any special rules they have beyond the standard Abomination rules. The rules for Homelander are also explained here in greater detail. So there'll be some stuff about him, which we'll go over. And then there's some equipment cards. We're just going to go ahead and jump into these equipment cards. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies of Compound V, which actually have a special back on them. Voight, which is like the government or whatever corporation, just not government, corporation that runs the 7. So the Compound V is basically what gives people limited superpowers, at least for a while. They can just get some. So you can discard to get +2 actions, or +2 damage, or +2 dice roll. So it's kind of a fun thing just to be able to have, just to be able to add into the game, to be able to use here and there. I think the ideas are 6 of them. So you can give them, hang them out in different ways. How many does it say specifically how? Says every time a survivor gains an epic weapon, they also gain a Compound V from this deck. Survivors can discard Compound V to gain powerful momentary boost. But it's also used to eliminate something. So if you just want to have it normally in any other game, you could give everyone extra superpower. There's only 6, so it's not going to be too terrible. Or you can use it, or you need to save it to eliminate the big bad guys in here. Then we do have milk and nuts, which have the regular one. There are 6 of these as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So these are just going to get shuffled into the regular deck. It says during setup, substitute all food cards, water, canned food, and rice into the equipment that can add these cards. So actually, they want you to replace the other ones for these, just so you don't have twice as many, or add them in if you want. But discard it to gain 3 AP. Spend 1 action to place this card on a spawn token in your zone, maybe used in your backpack. So it does say this. Note, in the red, if a specific mission requires you to keep any of these food cards, also keep them in the deck. So something says you have to have, a water, you have to keep that in the deck so you actually have access to it. So it says, milk and nectar and nutritious can be discarded to give a 3 AP. Otherwise, can be spent to be placed on the board in order to attract and neutralize Homelander, or it can be used in conjunction with the successful damage. In conjunction with the successful damage to melee attack to take out Black Noir. So there's special abilities each character can take to get rid of them. Then we have a deck of Abominations. So we do get 1 miniature to go in this, which is black, which is the Abomination color. So we get a special Homelander. So you get kind of like his normal, I'm a good superhero versus his I'm the evil guy, where he's kind of more floating up. I love the sitting on his cape like that. That's definitely cool. But yeah, so if you want to play as him, but if you want to you can use the other versions of them as well. So his special abilities. So they all have a couple special abilities. But it says, his attacks eliminate all survivors at range 0 to 1. So basically, these are brutal. They're going to be a lot harder than normal Abominations. He moves 2 zones per action. If no survivor is in line of sight, moves towards the milks and nuts cards. You can place this on the board to try and attract them towards that. To eliminate, attract them to the Milk and Nuts card on the board, and then all survivors gain 5 AP. So if we flip this over, it's just the Abomination, so we can't see no extra things on the back. He does have some extra special rules we're going to look at here quick. Homelander is indestructible. Survivors simply have to try and avoid him and lure him away. A survivor on a spawn zone may spend one action to take a Milk and Nuts card from their inventory and place it on that spawn zone. This grants no AP. There can only be ever one Milk and Nuts card on the board. It can be picked up with a one survivor action. Homelander has no survivors in line of sight. When he activates, he moves towards the zone with the milk. Homelander leaves the board, eliminating him as soon as he activates on the zone with the milk, discarding Milk and Nuts. So basically, you have to, like, he spawns in a spot, you have to get a Milk and Nuts card, place it on a spawn zone somewhere, avoid his sight until he goes towards that one and leaves the board. And then I'll punch all 5 characters. So yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to play as a survivor, where it's just avoid them, you know. And the thing is, you might have to put them on a zone all the way across the board, which means now you have to spend extra time maybe working all the way around the board, or depending on what the map looks like, you might have to, like, hopefully run through a building, hope he doesn't look inside of a building and see you, especially because he'll just straight up eliminate you. Alright, then we have Queen Maeve next. I'll just throw up the other characters, just kind of show up with them. Not that it's a big of a deal. So Queen Maeve costs an extra action for survivors to leave her zone. To eliminate, roll 3 hits on an attack card and discard a compound V. This is why she's going to be hard. Now, like, you have to roll 3 hits, you also have to discard a compound V. So if you get those cards, you have to hang on to them. So again, sort of like Homelander, you almost may need to just avoid her until you have the right setup. Up next, we have A-Train. Moves 3 zones per action. To eliminate, hit with a melee attack and discard 2 compound V cards. So, possibly a little bit easier, you just have to hit him with a melee attack. But, you also have to discard 2 compound Vs to be able to take them out. Next, we have the Deep. 2 actions per activation. To eliminate, use a Molotov or roll 2 6s on a melee attack. Again, even a super card, you're a little bit easier, a little bit simpler than the other characters. Lower on the rank. He doesn't require one of the special things to take out. Black Noir. Spawns in a zone adjacent to the closest survivor. The player chooses if tied. To eliminate, hit with 2 damage. Hit with a 2 damage melee attack and discard a Milk and Nuts card. So this one you have to discard one of the Milk and Nuts cards. Which means you also can't be used, you know, if you're trying to save it to fight off against Homelander. That could be an issue. Then we have Soldier Boy. To eliminate, use a Molotov on a roll of 1. And roll 1 die. On a 4+, he is eliminated. Also, if you discard a compound V, it only requires a +2 roll. Yeah, so 1 is really hard to use, and then if you have the compound V, it's a little bit easier. You know, so it makes it interesting. But it's if you have too many of these guys, they could end up having too many different times. You're gonna have to, you only get 6 of them compound Vs. Luckily, you do not shuffle in. You just have to find an epic weapon, and then you automatically get one. But you might have to collect all 6 to try and save up to take out these guys. And then we have Starlight. I do like the fact they made her an abomination too. They could have skipped that. At the end of the zombie phase, all survivors in line of sight are laid down. Must spend your first action to get up. To eliminate, use a Molotov and discard a compound V. So yeah, kind of like her other card. So yeah, if you have all these guys in the deck, you have to worry about, like, you're just fighting them. It's 1 compound V, possibly 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 6 total. You're already having to spend 4 to 5 just to be able to take out all these guys. So that means if you only have 6 of them, you have to either get that Molotov with Soldier Boy really good, or you're only going to have one extra to spend. And then Milk and Nuts, you're just going to mainly use for Homelander, but you also need one for Black Noir. So basically, if you get 2 of them, you know, you're going to, like, after that, go ahead and spend them, but you might not want to spend them right away. Then the last one we have is actually the Translucent. So we don't actually have a miniature for this. So I'm just going to put Terror back up there for the moment. The Translucent's the Invisible Man type of the group, so you don't actually have a miniature for him. It says, each time he activates, place this card in a random survivor's zone and roll a die. On a 4+, he deals 1 wound to that survivor. A survivor in this card zone may spend 1 action to roll a die. On a 1-3, he got away. Remove this card until his next activation. On a 4-6, got him. This round, any survivor in the zone may spend 1 action and discard 1 Molotov to eliminate only Translucent. So this guy makes him really hard because he'll just bounce around to whoever he's near on a random survivor. Yeah, I don't know how you decide he's random. How you decide randomness for him. And he doesn't really say it in here either. But that's a fun way to do that character. But yeah, if he's in your zone, you can spend 1 action for a chance to even attack him. Then you have to have a Molotov. I mean, luckily anyone can, but one person has to reveal him first. It's just a very interesting way to do that character. Alright, so that is what we have for the boys. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed the video. So yeah, you can pick up the pack of the 7 and the pack of the boys in retail if you want to get the one with the Abominations. Just the cards and the 1 Homelander miniature and the extra power equipment. That was a pre-order exclusive, so again, it might be a little bit harder to track down. But at least now you know it's in it. You can see if it's worth it. Or if you just like the abilities, you can always just write them down somewhere and just play them that way. Because except for Translucent, you don't really need to have any of them out on the board. You just have a random draw. I drew an Abomination, just randomly pick one of them. If that's something you like to do. Alright, that's what we got. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.